And welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Mike Bozak of the Landmark Society of Greater Utica is our guest. We've been talking about one of Utica's landmarks, and that's Utica's Union Station. And it is back, would you say, Mike, back to its, well, not to its original grandeur, but pretty close.
Pretty close, actually, yes. A lot of people cannot really imagine Utica without Union Station and all, and you have to remind them that there was a time in the mid-'70s that things were looking pretty bleak. The ceiling was destroyed basically from leaking roofs. The lighting was horrible. The skylights were covered over. It was really in dire straits. A lot of people couldn't see through the grime and filth that it was still a very, very great building. And I remember Frank Presbyson going and saying, you know, the roof, you take care of the roof, the building is sound, you take care of the roof, and the rest of the building will follow. And again, you had mentioned Nick Collegiero, who was the first politician who actually got on board with landmarks to say, yes, this building is worth saving and should be saved. So thank God for the late Nick Collegiero.
The building, Mike, is, what would you call the design of that building?
Back in the 19-teens and all that, a lot of the public buildings they used a Beaux-Arts style or sort of an eclectic style. And that was developed from the World Columbian Exposition of 1892 in Chicago, and the White City concept. Before that, they were basically like Richardsonian buildings, or very, very strong, stodgy buildings, and this was more of a light and airy type of a design. It's designed sort of along the lines of an Italian palazzo design.
The couple features that you don't see every day on a building, one is that beautiful clock on the front of the building. Is that clock working?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
At least last I checked it was.
Yeah, yeah. That's just a beautiful...
yes, with the limestone eagles alongside and all, it is a great piece.
And then the another interesting feature of that building is the way they heat people who are seated waiting for a train.
Yes, the benches themselves have heating ducts in the middle, so that people stay warm and all that, and it's a great concept. I would challenge people, if you haven't looked at the exterior of the facade of Union Station lately, take a good look. Just get out of your car and look at the front of the building, and you'll see a lot of different interesting things on it. You know, the symbolism. And I'd mentioned the eagles and all that. There's a winged rail or winged steel flanged wheel and all that is on there, and a caduceus, which is normally associated with medical, but it's also associated with transportation and all that. So, and another interesting element, you had mentioned Union Station, and it wasn't built as a Union Station, but nowhere in that building does it even mention the New York Central. I always found that interesting, that I think the New York Central was in the process of changing their name, and for some reason or another, it never got on the building.
That is interesting. I never thought of that, Mike, that their name doesn't appear anywhere there.
No.
Yeah. To the west, not many feet to the west, is the Bagg Memorial Building.
Yes.
Which has never really found a use, has it, Mike?
No. No, it was built around the site, or at the site of the Bagg Hotel, and when that was taken down by the Proctors in 1932, in order to actually have people work, it was all done by hand, and Maria Proctor decided that she would build this small memorial building on the site of the Bagg Hotel as a sort of a symbol, and they were going to keep the records from the Bagg Hotel there. Those disappeared at some point in time in history. I don't know where they landed up. And it had a variety of uses, but nothing on a long-term basis. And I know my good friend Joe Bottini was adamant in having that restored and all, and that park that it sits in. And thank goodness that he did, because it is a fabulous element in the city, and also a landmark in its own right.
The building between the Bagg Memorial Building and Union Station, the former Children's Museum, and before that it was what, Mike?
Heber Dry Goods?
Yes, Heber Dry Goods.
Yes, yeah, great building.
Yeah, and now I guess it's going to be what, Mike? Lofts or something?
I think it's going to be, last I'd heard, it's going to be lofts and a boutique hotel. a small hotel type scenario. I haven't heard anything lately on it, but I know that everything's pretty much on hold. I know that the railroad equipment that sits to the east of it is going away. There are some pieces that were sold and some may have to be cut up.
Oh, now, that equipment that's an old dining car there.
Yes,
There's a caboose in the back,
it's actually a Pennsylvania cabin car.
cabin car.
Yes, the
All right.
Pennsylvania called it a cabin car, not a caboose.
Ah.
And then there's a locomotive that ran on the original Adirondack Railway back in the 1979, 1980 ran up to the Lake Placid Olympics
Yeah,
and all. And that was, they call it the Tampa Tiger because it came out of the Tampa, I think it was the electrical company down there, brought up north and used for the Adirondack Railway.
somebody told me a long time ago, Mike, that one of the things you need to do if you've got an old building is you gotta figure out ways to get people into those old buildings.
Sure.
Because it's like with Frank President said about the building, you gotta get that roof on there first and protect the rest of the building. Well, somebody told me that you need to get people into a building, and good things will follow if you can do that. And that's really what's happened down there.
Yes, and that's always been the case. It's great to restore old buildings, and I'm a huge advocate of that, but you also have to have a use. And when you have something, say, like a church or a train station, those are difficult to reconfigure in a lot of cases because they were built for a specific purpose, and they're not always easily converted into something else. Another one is a school, and a lot of times schools are converted into apartments. Sometimes that has limited success. Office buildings and all that can be relatively easily configured, but stations, churches, very difficult because of the way that they are built.
Well, with all that's going on there on the county side, and then if you got the public market, which we didn't even talk about in the old REA wing, people are coming down there, and that's a good thing. Mike, another good thing is seeing you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Joe.
That's going to do it for us this week, but we'll be back next week. We'll do it all again. Don't forget cnyhomepage.com. There's a lot of good things on the station's website there. Until next time, take care of yourself, everybody.